One of the reasons butterfly swimming is so difficult for so many swimmers is that both arms need to be recovered over the surface of the water at the same time. That requires a lot of different skills to all line up at the same time, or else swimmers are really going to struggle to do so effectively and efficiently. And especially as swimmers are young, when they're learning these skills, it can be really difficult to do things well, and they develop skills that impair their speed throughout the rest of their career. Let's fix that. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. Poor butterfly arm recoveries can make butterfly a whole lot more difficult, and more importantly, it can make it slower. If swimmers can improve their butterfly arm recoveries, they're going to be able to swim faster and they're going to be able to sustain their speed over longer periods of time because the stroke demands less energy. In this video, we're going to take a look at why arm recoveries are important, what are effective arm recoveries, the challenges of improving the arm recovery, and then several strategies for getting the job done. Let's check it out. Arm recoveries matter for three main reasons. The first is alignment, the second is propulsion, and the third one is effort. So from an alignment perspective, the arm recoveries will directly impact body position. If the arm recoveries are extremely low and they even drag through the water, that's going to create a lot more resistance as well. And so swimmers have to find the sweet spot that allows them to maintain an effective body position and allows them to maintain a profile that keeps resistance low, or else they're going to run into trouble. And so the arm should be recovered in a way that allows swimmers to keep the body in line as much as possible. The arm recoveries are also important for propulsion as well, because if the arms are crashing in, the arms are crashing together, the arms are entering really wide, all those issues are going to make it a lot more difficult to set up the stroke. And if the stroke can't be set up well, that's going to negatively impact the pull, and it's pretty much downhill from there. And so the recoveries set up the beginning of the stroke, and the rest of the stroke follows from how well that recovery is set up. Lastly, the more fatiguing, the more challenging, the more difficult the arm recoveries are, the harder it's going to be to sustain that speed. And so the recoveries are already difficult. The goal is to recover the arms in a way that minimizes the amount of effort that's used to get them over the surface of the water. The less effort that's required, the less effort that's needed, the more that swimmers are going to be able to sustain their speed over any race distance. So what are effective arm recoveries? Unfortunately, it's difficult to say exactly how a swimmer should recover their arms. However, there are certain things that we're looking to accomplish. The recoveries should be as fast as possible, as direct as possible, and as effortless as possible. We don't want to see any loss of speed. We don't want to see any loss of alignment. We don't want to see any loss of propulsion, and we want as little effort as possible. Now, of course, when the arms are recovering, swimmers are going to slow down because they're not applying propulsion. However, that loss of speed, the goal is to have zero, and we're trying to get it as close to that as possible. Same thing with the loss of alignment. When the head's up, the shoulders are up out of the water, there's going to be a loss of alignment. How small can that loss be? And the smaller it is, the better. And as we just mentioned, the arm recoveries are going to influence the entry and therefore the pull itself. And so we don't want arm recoveries that compromise those motions, that compromise the subsequent pull. And of course, the less energy that swimmers can use, the less effort they have to use to accomplish all these goals, the better they're going to be able to hang on to their skills. And so in terms of the actual recoveries, we're looking for just right. If the recoveries are too high, if the recoveries are too low, that's going to disrupt alignment. And then in terms of width, we want not too wide, not too narrow, and that's more in terms of where the recoveries end upon entry. If they're too wide, it's going to be difficult to set up the stroke. If they're too narrow, it's going to be difficult to set up the stroke. Then finally, the finish of the pull needs to be not too long, not too short. Now, why is that the case? If the pull is too long, it's going to be really difficult to get the hands out and recover them smoothly and effortlessly. And if the pull is too short, swimmers might be able to swing their arms out pretty easily, but they're going to be compromising the pull itself, and that's not going to set them up for more speed. And so for all swimmers, it's about finding the happy medium. But of course, it's different for different swimmers because they all have different attributes. They've got different levels of strength, mobility, and they've got different lengths of their arms. And those factors all interact. They all impact exactly what the most optimal recovery should be for each swimmer. So if you watch here, what you'll see is that the arms are coming up at different heights, the body's coming up at different heights, the elbows are maybe a little bit more bent, a little bit less bent, they're swinging in at slightly different points. And so while you see the same basic themes in terms of staying relatively low to the water, keeping the arms relatively straight, entering about shoulder width, there are some differences in terms of what athletes are actually doing. And so that's what we need to pay attention to, is how can we not only help swimmers execute on these basic principles, but how can they find the most optimal arm recovery for them that allows them to create the most speed with the least amount of effort. Now, if we watch from under the surface, what we will see here is more or less they're going to be entering shoulder width, but you can see even these two swimmers, there's a little bit different width. And so it's finding what's going to be optimal for each swimmer. Then the other aspect of it too, if you watch the pull, they're not going to finish with straight arms in the back of the stroke. The elbows are going to be bent when they exit the water, like right there on the right and right there on the left. And then the arms go straight after the arms exit the water. And that's going to allow them to find, again, it's not too long. They're not straightening the arms. That's going to make it really hard to recover. And they're also not pulling out early. They're getting way past the hips on these pulls as well. And so it's finding the optimal width and how long the pull should be in order to help swimmers figure out what's going to be the best way to recover the arms, again, to keep speed as high as possible with as little effort as possible. So what's the challenge here? The first big challenge is nuance. Small changes can have a large impact, and swimmers have to be able to feel and control this nuance. Subtle changes in depth, subtle changes in width, subtle changes in the length of the finish can all add up. It can add to losses of speed or gains of speed or increases or decreases in effort. And so swimmers have to be able to perceive, they have to be able to feel, they have to be aware of these differences so that they can swim most effectively. Secondly, there are multiple factors that affect a good arm recovery. The height of the arms, the width of the arms, especially in terms of the entry, and finally the position of the finish of the arms, whether it's happening early, whether it's happening later. And so these factors all matter and they all interact. And so swimmers are trying to find the best combination of all three that results in the most speed for the least effort. And lastly, the nuance, the multiple factors, they all interact on an individual level. Different limb lengths for the swimmers, different amounts of strength, different amounts of range of motion in all the joints in the upper body. Optimal is going to be different for different swimmers, and it has to be discovered because we can't necessarily know exactly what it's going to be, but we have to help swimmers figure out what's going to be the best strategy for them. And once they can figure that out, that is what's going to allow them to go faster for less effort. So when it comes to solutions, it's all about solving those challenges. So when it comes to solutions, it's all about overcoming those challenges. In particular, we have to help swimmers become more aware, and we have to help them feel the different options that they have for recovering the arms, and then become more aware of which options are going to create the most speed and the least effort. And so we have to provide them with a lot of different tools, a lot of different strategies, put them in a lot of different positions, and that's going to give them the awareness that they need in order to figure out how they should recover their arms in order to create speed. So rather than giving them the answer, we have to give them the right problems so that they can find the right answer. So more than anything else, variation is going to be our friend. Variation creates a different feel, and it shows them a new opportunity, a new option for recovering the arm. If they can feel the recoveries in new ways, they can start to feel which type of recovery, which way to recover the arms is going to be fastest and least effortful. And by asking for different variation, rather than just asking them to move their hands an inch to the left or an inch to the right or an inch higher or an inch lower, we can break them out of their current patterns and make them do something really different. And it's when they have the ability to do things very different and they can feel those differences, that's when they can gain the awareness that they need to start to figure out what solution is going to work best for them. The big picture concept is to provide them with a lot of options through a lot of different variation and let them choose the right solution that's going to help them, again, create the most speed for the least amount of effort. So here are some different ways that you can vary the recoveries to accomplish that goal. You can change the height, so have them recover the arms really high as they can, try to reach for the ceiling. You can have them recover the arms really low. Have them literally try to drag their arms through the water at one extreme and then work in between those extremes. You can vary the width, especially of the entry. You can have them try to enter very narrow. You can try to have them enter extremely wide. And by trying to change their entry, that's going to necessarily change their recovery path. You can also have them change where they finish the pull. So they're trying to finish the stroke really late, trying to finish down by the knees. It's what it's going to feel like to them. Or you can tell them to try to finish the stroke when their hands cross their chest. So by exposing them to the end range extremes, That's going to give them more awareness of the different possibilities, the different options. It's going to help them better feel that. And when they become more aware, when they can start to feel it, then they can start to figure out where within that range they're going to be more effective. If they've never recovered the arms high or they've never recovered the arms really low, they don't really even appreciate what that is as an option. So we have to expose them to it to help them feel that and understand that. Now, within those different variations, we can vary them. And so we can have progressions. So we can have swimmers move from a high recovery to a low recovery, and we can have them do that over the course of a lap. So for instance, 425s, start high, finish low, or start low, finish high, and where they can go odds high to low, evens low to high. That would be progression within a lap. And then you can also have them progress across repetitions. So maybe it's 625s. First one starts really high, second one's medium, third one's really low, fourth one's really low again, fifth one is medium, sixth one's high. So they've progressed across the repetitions. Each repetition's a little bit different. You can also go alternations. So the odds are high, the evens are low. You can even go different arms at the same time. So let's say that they're trying to enter narrow on the left, they're trying to enter wide on the right. And so you're helping them feel, you're helping them make changes, you're helping them do something different. And when they have the ability to make changes, they have the ability to do things differently. Now they can start to control what they're doing and they can start to explore more effectively. And by asking them to do different things on a repetition to repetition basis, they're going to be exposed to a lot more different options. And more importantly, they're learning the ability to control their arm recoveries. And if they can control it, they can change it. And if they can change it, they can find a better way to recover the arms. And you can add even more variations. You can add butterfly variations. So you can change the breathing pattern. You can have them go with their head up. You can have them do flutter kick instead of dolphin kick. You can combine all three. You can use different training aid variations. So maybe you have them do it with fins. You have them do it with a drag socks. You have them do it with a snorkel. You have them do it with paddles. The list goes on in terms of what you can have them do as well to change what they're feeling and how they're doing it. And just as importantly, you can have different performance variations. You ask them to change the speed, building, descending, hit this time. Same thing with the stroke count. I want you to go 6. I want you to go 876. You can have them do the same thing with the stroke rate. Give them a certain number, ask them to change the stroke rate, ask them to go high, ask them to go low. And what's important here is they're trying to figure out what works. What strategies allow them to go fast? What strategies allow them to take 1 or 2 less strokes? What strategies allow them to go faster at the same stroke rate or go the same speed with a lower stroke rate? And so by giving them different performance variations, we're letting them test to see what works. And by using the training aids and the different butterfly variations, we're allowing them to feel the arm recoveries in different contexts. Again, we're trying to give them as many options, trying to help them feel what's going to be an effective arm recovery so that they can find the solution that works best for them. So here's a set that's geared more towards helping swimmers figure out the optimal height of the recovery. So they're going to go 2 rounds through this. The first piece, they're going to go 225s head up butterfly. The odds are high with the arm recoveries, the evens are low, and then they'll go to 25 butterfly, whatever feels right. Then they'll do the same thing with flutter kick, and then they'll do the same thing with regular butterfly. And after each 2, again, they're just going to see what feels good and just try to feel it out. Then the second half, rather than going odds and evens, high and low, they're going to progress from high to low on the odds. And on the evens, they're going to progress from low to high. So we're letting them feel the same idea, the same things in a little bit different way. And again, after each pair of 2, they have a regular 25 butterfly to just feel it out and see what feels good. So we're exposing them to a lot of different things here, and we're giving them a chance to put it all together with regular butterfly. And by doing that, they're going to have more awareness of what type of recovery, what height of recovery is going to work best for them. This set, we're going to focus more on the finish of the recovery. So they're going to go 450s butterfly with fins. They're going to go 25 early finish, 25 late finish, and then 25 late finish, 25 early finish. Then number 3, they're going to start with late, progress to early. And number 4, they're going to start with early and progress to late. Then they're going to go 425s butterfly, solid, effortless recoveries, just kind of letting it feel it. And the focus here is on exiting the water in a way that allows them to recover the arms as easily as possible. We'll start off with 25 seconds rest and then drop the interval 5 seconds each round. That's going to create more fatigue. It's going to be harder to stay effortless. It's going to be harder to continue to execute, but that's the challenge here is they got to figure out, all right, how can I still make this happen? Well, I've got a little bit more fatigue. So here, we're trying to really work on letting the arms swing over the surface as easily as possible, and we're helping them figure out the best way to do that by changing how far back they're pulling with each stroke. Last set is more of a speed set, and we're going to focus on the width of the entry following the arm recovery. And all these repetitions are done as fast as possible at a given stroke rate. So the first round's at 1.35 seconds per cycle, then 1.25, and then 1.15. So pretty fast, but not crazy fast. And then on the first one, they're going to start with a narrow entry and move wide. The next one, they're going to start wide and get narrow. And then on the next one, they're going to go wide with the right arm, narrow with the left. And so it's going to be shifted over to the side, and they're going to go to the opposite side on the fourth one, and then they're going to go odd and even, wide and narrow on the fifth and sixth, and then they're just going to go fast on the last one. So we're challenging them to enter differently, and we're challenging them to go fast at a given stroke rate, so they're going to have to figure out how to make that all happen at high speeds. And the challenge of that is going to help them explore. It's going to help them figure out how do they actually recover the arms as effectively and as effortlessly as possible and get in a position to create an effective pull each and every stroke. And so that's the challenge that we're trying to work on. And rather than just telling them what to do, we're putting them in positions where they got to figure out all these different positions, and they have to figure out how to create speed at all those different positions, and they have to do it at a set stroke rate. So it's a pretty big challenge, but once swimmers can execute that effectively, they're going to have a much better understanding of how they need to recover the arms in order to create speed, and that is what it's all about. If you want to learn more about how to help swimmers improve their pull once the arms do recover and enter the water, check out the video below.